Imagine this with me for a moment.
Yeah.
You're holding, like, the best seeds imaginable, right?
Yeah.
Strong, full of potential. You can practically see the amazing harvest.
Mm-hmm.
But then you just scatter them onto this dry, hard, unbroken ground.
Yeah.
Days go by, nothing.
Yeah.
And you realize pretty fast the problem wasn't the seed, it was the soil.
Exactly. And that right there, it really highlights a huge truth we often miss. In global engagement, leadership, even mission work,
Okay.
strategies often fail. And it's usually not because the message itself or the intention lacks power. It's because we didn't get the cultural soil. We just didn't.
You didn't understand it?
Or we ignored it. We often rush in, eager to plant our idea, our project, whatever it is, without really stopping to listen, to observe, to grasp those unseen forces that shape how a community actually receives something, or just as often, how they resist it.
Right.
And here's the bit we often miss even more. Our own cultural lens, the one we don't even see, is probably distorting what we think we're seeing, even when we're trying hard to listen.
That's such a critical point. Because, yeah, the hidden challenge is that culture is never neutral, is it?
Never.
Every single community, every group, carries just centuries of stories baked into its soil.
Absolutely.
We're talking about, deep historical wounds sometimes, unique spiritual ways of seeing the world, the rhythm of daily life, those unspoken values that really dictate how people hear things.
The things you don't talk about but everyone knows.
Exactly. And if you ignore that reality, even the most brilliant idea, the most compelling message, well, it risks being completely misunderstood. It's like trying to have a conversation when you don't know the grammar.
You got it.
So today, our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack why. Why understanding this soil through careful cultural ethnographic research isn't just about, avoiding mistakes.
Right. It's more than damage control.
Yeah. It's about finding real ways to connect deeply, to build trust, and ultimately to foster transformation that actually lasts.
Lasting impact.
So we're going to look at some biblical principles, draw lessons from history, and give you, our listeners, some practical ways to cultivate that kind of impact.
Yeah, and just to double down on that core idea, because it's so fundamental, it can almost seem too obvious. You just cannot plant well in soil you don't understand.
Simple, but profound.
It is. Culture isn't just like the paint on the surface. It's the whole foundation, the root system. It nourishes or ejects. It determines if ideas actually take hold, if resistance pops up, and where those little openings for genuine connection might be. It's that whole ecosystem of belief and behavior we need to grasp.
And what makes this so vital, especially now? Why does this feel more urgent today?
Well, the world has shifted dramatically, hasn't it? I mean, we're not operating in these uniform contexts anymore, if we ever really were.
Right.
Globalization has turned our cities, our workplaces, even online spaces into these incredible mosaics of traditions, beliefs, little microcultures everywhere.
Yeah, it's complex.
And communities are changing faster than ever. Think about migration, technology's impact, huge generational shifts. And alongside all that, there's often this growing skepticism, sometimes a very justified skepticism towards voices seen as outsiders.
Okay.
So all of that just demands a much, much higher level of cultural intelligence from all of us.
So if the world is this complex, evolving mosaic,
Yeah.
what's our map? What's our compass to navigate it?
That's exactly where ethnographic research fits in. It really can act as your guide in these unfamiliar terrains.
Okay, so what is that practically? It sounds academic.
It can sound that way, but it's intensely practical. It's not just about collecting data for some report, ticking boxes.
Right.
It's about immersion. It's about really stepping into someone else's world, trying to see things from their perspective. We call it the EMX perspective, EMIC, seeing it from the inside out. Trying to understand the world through their eyes, not just watching from the outside. That's key for getting motivations and meanings.
So how do you do that?
Well, it means asking the right kinds of questions. Open-ended ones. For instance, instead of asking, like, do you believe in fate, which imposes a concept, you might ask something like, when something unexpected and difficult happens in life, who do people in your family or community usually turn to first? What kinds of explanations do people offer? See the difference.
Yeah, that gets at their actual worldview, not my categories.
Exactly. It also involves things like mapping, where people gather. Where's the real social life? Is it the coffee shop, the market, an online forum? Paying close attention to festivals, celebrations, what do they reveal about shared values?
Yeah.
And watching those informal networks of influence Who do people really listen to? This is practical groundwork, boots on the ground stuff, not just theory.
Okay, that makes sense. And thinking biblically now, there's that famous parable of the sower in Matthew 13. We usually hear it taught about individual hearts responding to God's word. But given what you've just said about cultural soil, could there be a cultural layer to those different soils Jesus described?
Oh, absolutely. I think reading it that way adds incredible depth. If we see those four soils not just as individual hearts, but as different cultural terrains, the lessons become really profound.
Okay, break that down. What about the path?
Right, the path. That hard-packed ground. Think of communities that have been trampled down, hardened by disappointment, by oppression, or, sadly, by the misuse of religion itself.
Like when faith was used to justify colonization.
Exactly. Leaving these deep scars of distrust, the seed just gets snatched away instantly. So the lesson there is profound patience, deep humility, and often a need for active restitution, for reconciliation.
Wow.
Prayerful, present service, that often has to come long before words, just gently trying to soften that ground.
Okay, then the rocky ground.
The rocky ground allows for quick initial reception, right? Things spring up fast, but there's no depth, shallow roots.
Like fads.
Kind of. It mirrors cultures or environments maybe captivated by novelty, by instant gratification, but just not prepared for the long haul, for endurance.
We see that a lot today.
We do. Environments saturated with consumerism, maybe, where commitments are easy come, easy go. When things get tough, they wither. So the task there is really deep, intentional discipleship. Nurturing roots, building resilience.
Makes sense. And the thorns.
Ah, the thorns. This is fertile soil, things grow. But it's crowded. Faith sprouts, but it gets choked out by competing values.
Like what?
Things like materialism, ambition, maybe powerful cultural idols, political allegiances. This is maybe the most relatable one for many modern societies, right? So many distractions, divided loyalties.
Okay.
So the gardener's job here is to discern and maybe gently help name those thorns. What's really competing for people's hearts and minds could be social media pressures, career obsession, even local traditions that subtly pull allegiance away. But always without arrogance, just helping people see.
Gently clearing the weeds.
Something like that. And finally, the good soil.
The
Well, yes, but it doesn't mean perfect people or flawless communities. It represents places or people whose experiences, maybe their history, their spiritual hunger, have somehow cultivated this openness, this readiness to receive.
Okay.
And yes, this soil produces fruit 30, 60, 100-fold, but even good soil needs constant tending. Weeds can still creep in, drought can come. The harvest still requires labor. It's not passive.
That's a really rich way to look at that parable, and it ties right into Christ's own approach, doesn't it? That verse in John 1:14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us.
The ultimate example.
What does that tell us about understanding cultural soil?
It's the ultimate act of contextualization, isn't it? Jesus didn't just shout truth from heaven. He understood the soil of humanity because he lived in it. He spoke the language, Aramaic. He walked the dusty roads, ate the food, shared the table. He was fully immersed in the culture of his day before he really launched his public teaching and redeeming work.
He met people where they were.
Exactly. It shows how much God values meeting people right there in their own cultural context, instead of demanding they somehow shed their culture to come to him.
And the Apostle Paul seems like another example of this kind of cultural gardening.
A master gardener.
In 1 Corinthians 9, he says, I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. His journeys weren't just random pins on a map, were they?
Not at all. Look at his approach in Athens, Acts 17. He didn't just barge in preaching. He engaged the intellectual soil there on the Areopagus.
Right, with the philosophers.
Yeah. He quotes their poets Epimenides, Aratus, for in him we live and move and have our being. He even points to their own altar to an unknown God.
Finding common ground.
Building bridges directly from their worldview towards the gospel. He respected their culture enough to engage it seriously, not just dismiss it.
And Corinth, a very different place.
Totally different. A bustling, cosmopolitan, pretty morally complex city. And there, he adapted again. He had to navigate Jewish tradition, Greek philosophy, Roman civic life, all mixed together. He showed incredible flexibility, adapting his approach, his arguments, without ever watering down the core message. That's the key.
Right.
So the big takeaway from Paul, understanding the soil is essential for fruitfulness. It's not optional. It's fundamental if you want genuine connection.
That really shifts the perspective.
Oh.
Okay, moving beyond just the practical need, what about the soil itself? You mentioned something deeper there about its sacredness.
Yeah, I think this is really important. We're not just talking about dirt or demographics. Every soil, every cultural context is, in a sense, sacred.
How so?
Well, it's crafted by God ultimately. It's been shaped by generations of human experience. It's charged with potential. It carries history, memory, stories of wounds, yes, but also incredible resilience, deep longings. It's a living landscape.
And that applies to individuals, too.
Absolutely. On an individual level, think about human hearts. They are these sacred, storied landscapes, shaped by upbringing, by trauma, good and bad, relationships, unique encounters. So trying to understand the soil of a person's heart or a community's heart, that's not manipulation. It's an act of profound love.
Seeing people differently.
Yeah, seeing them not as targets for my agenda, but as a loved image bearers whose stories matter deeply and whose cultural context is part of who they are.
But there's a real danger here we need to name.
Okay.
Ethnocentrism.
Huge danger. It's that tendency we all have to view other cultures only through the lens of our own values.
Assuming our way is the normal or right way.
Exactly. And it leads straight to miscommunication, misunderstanding, and just ineffectiveness. We've seen it tragically in history. Colonial missions, for instance. Sometimes they imposed Western customs right alongside biblical teaching and ended up alienating communities instead of truly connecting with them. It's the exact opposite of that incarnational dwelling among us model.
So what's the antidote to that?
Cultural humility. It's not just a technique. It's really a posture, a divine posture, you could say.
Okay. What does that look like?
It's a lifelong commitment, really, to self-reflection, being willing to critique our own assumptions, and staying in a mode of continuous learning.
Always learning.
Always. Approaching every cultural encounter as a learner, not the expert with all the answers. It actually mirrors Christ's own humility described in Philippians 2, that emptying of himself. It's recognizing that God's truth is often revealed within diverse human contexts, not just dropped on them from outside. It means admitting our perspective is never the whole picture.
Okay, so let's get really practical then. What does this mean for you listening as you engage with different communities? Could be globally, could be just in your diverse neighborhood.
Right.
Well, first, just like that farmer testing the soil, we have got to learn to listen before we speak, before we try to plant anything new.
Foundational.
This means doing the homework, some cultural study, getting aware of the history, but mostly it's about genuine relational engagement, taking the time to listen.
And when you do that, it communicates incredible dignity. You're basically saying, your story, your perspective, it actually matters to me.
Okay, so listen first. Then what?
Then engage contextually. Speak the gospel or share your idea, whatever it is, in the true language of the hearer.
And you mean more than just words, right?
Much more. Linguistically, yes, but also symbolically, experientially. Think about baking. You need to know the oven temperature, right? You need to understand the heat of the culture.
Okay.
Jesus was a master at this. Fishing metaphors for fishermen, bread imagery for hungry people. Today, that might mean using tech analogies for digital natives, or justice language in communities fighting oppression, or deep hospitality for refugees.
Tailoring the communication.
Exactly. But it's not compromise. It's about clarity, making the message resonate where people actually live and breathe.
And this sounds like it takes time. It's not a quick fix.
Definitely not. You have to cultivate long-term relationships. Soil doesn't change instantly. Hard ground needs softening. Rocky soil needs enriching. Thorns need clearing. All that takes immense patience. Real transformation isn't a quick harvest. It's a lifelong journey of tending that soil.
Can you give us a sort of roadmap, like drawing from those ethnographic studies you mentioned? What are some key steps?
Sure, a few practical steps might look like this. First, pray and prepare spiritually. Seems obvious, but check your motives. Ask for guidance. Be aware of your own biases.
Sort of yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second, immerse yourself. And this isn't just a quick visit. If possible, participate in daily life. Go to local events, festivals. Observe the rhythms, how people interact, the language, the symbols, even things like smells, sounds, public art.
Really pay attention.
Third, engage through listening and dialogue. Find those key people, the cultural brokers, insiders who can help you understand. Have informal conversations. Ask those open-ended questions we talked about.
Like, what's the biggest hope parents have for kids here?
Exactly. Or, when someone gets sick, who do they turn to first? What remedies or rituals are important? Things like that. Fourth, analyze and reflect. Look for patterns. What themes keep coming up about beliefs, practices, worldview? And crucially, keep reflecting on your own biases. What surprised you? What challenged you?
Stay self-aware.
And fifth, integrate findings. Use what you're learning to tailor how you communicate, maybe how you address historical wounds you've discovered, how you can build on community strengths that already exist. It's about helping the culture hear the message in a way that genuinely connects.
That's really helpful. But there's a warning here too, isn't there? Something about missions history.
Yes, a vital missiological warning. Scattering seed without discernment, without understanding the soil, it isn't courage, it's actually presumption.
Presumption, okay.
And history shows us clearly exporting faith as if it's a foreign cultural package, like some colonial missions did, often leads to one of two things. Either a very superficial faith that doesn't run deep, or outright rejection.
Because it felt foreign.
Exactly. The gospel isn't meant to replace culture. It's meant to redeem it from within.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, the listener? Whether you're working across continents or just trying to connect with your neighbor across the street.
Yeah, what's the bottom line?
I think ultimately, understanding the soil is so much more than just a good strategy. It's actually an act of worship.
How so?
Because it reflects the heart of God himself. The God who became flesh, who walked among us, who understood our soil so deeply, and then planted himself within it, precisely so that new life could spring up. It's imitating Christ's empathy.
That's beautifully put. It really is about reflecting God's own approach to us.
Yeah.
And maybe a final thought to leave with everyone. If the soil you plant in truly determines the harvest you reap, well, can you really afford not to know it deeply?
That's the question.
So, consider this. When we approach other people, other communities, are we just seeing dirt? You know, an undifferentiated mass to be fixed or changed? Or are we recognizing sacred ground? Ground already imbued with history, with a unique story, maybe even with the divine imprint, just waiting for us to plant with wisdom, with humility, and ultimately with love.